as much as we have didactic art, details that can be worked towards initiations and rituals, Hermetic Yoga Beyond the Middle Pillar, Volume 2, Rosicrucian Yoga, is more along the lines of a reconstructive narrative. It mentions Sefer Yetzirah and how it links back to pre-Jewish mythologies, but it does go into pathworking from that post-Sufi Kabbalistic perspective. It goes into the alchemical wedding of Christian Rosicrucian, Parzival. It goes into the Gnostic Nicene documents, the Valentinian Gnostics, Frater. Did I mention James George Fraser's The Golden Bough and Jesse Weston's Ritual Romance, which I've shared the latter on my channel. So in the spirit that I think the Church of Hermetic Sciences and Ordo Templi Astartes imbibes with, of course, a connection to the Frater movement. This takes it to a sort of esoteric Christian perspective, but not Christian as in Jesus is the deity and we aren't, or something like that. It brings back the feminine and has a balance between the two, instead of this Christian thing where you have this trinity that's all male, and then the female ends up demonized and some other problems associated with it. If we look at what a lot of people say theoretically about the Bible, is they take these different names for God and act like they were different traditions and different deities like competing or something. That wasn't quite the case. But what we do see throughout Israelite history and prehistory, you could say, because, I mean, you know, the legends go back thousands of years before any text you have of even a line of what could have been a biblical inscription. You know, there was monotheism and there was polytheism and there was different types of Judaism where there was Judaism. Not all those were monotheistic. And the theory put forward in this book is that Jesus was like combining the religions, you could say, in a way. So there wouldn't be a conflict between them. But the personal theory of prophets that I connect to is this idea that the prophets are individuals that go beyond their tradition to restore with what has been revealed to them. So beyond the personifications. They have a tree of life that has 11 spheres and 24 pathways. And they put deity names accordingly on that. Rosicrucian yoga, as it's called, has a goal of communing with one's own higher self. And of course, whatever beings attached to that mission of integrating your own parts of yourself and working with that along the way. As within, so without, right? There is certain mystical importance of certain constellations, like the big crater and stuff like this, that is weaved into the story. As remember how I pointed out in my Astrology Without Idolatry program, how the Bible and stuff is just full of this astrological language. And it's more about lessons than literally thinking that, you have to fight the big dragon or something. And in one way, we could say the Bible represents the conflict between the different roles in society that we have to work out within ourselves. Or, by our own deeds, of course. Stepping aside from the idea that we have seen at least 4 historical characters and a whole series of mythological characters mixed in the Jesus story, we do definitely get the idea of the merging of lineages and a conscious attempt towards restoration. But of course, just like in the Bible, Jesus was opposed by the conservatives and the lackadaisy liberals. And of course, I don't mean the political sides or anything like that. We can notice the influences outside of the Hebrews upon the Hebrews. And this drive of criticism, why these other paths have something else that our path doesn't even touch on. And of course, that's part of the reason for the whole Rose Cross, is because we have those things shown therein. The Gossip of Philip and some other sources indicate the aspect of the sacred marriage in bringing certain ritual consciousness into the marital acts and awareness of the different partners. And, you see indicated some other ideas, like, not in a vain way, the use of mirrors in the bedchamber and the drawing down of the presence, that the lovemaking is in accord with the light beings, the Devis, the Ahuras, whatever you want to call them. We see psychological magic as the idea of some of the miracles in the Bible. I don't think the Soma Sophia celestial map became the Enochian watchtowers or Aether system, but I do think that they parallel. Astrology is used to contain or describe messages, not just some, thing where this happened because of this star and that planet and all that stuff. And but again, just like the phases of the moon, regardless of the cycle of the woman, and the phases, and the different points of the solar year can be used towards heightening the spiritual aspect of family. So, of course, the Jesus and Mary Magdalene myth represents the high priest and high priestess, with the other officials transmitting out into the community. There's the inner stars and the inner world and the outer world, and it connects to that, and somebody could be the one reading to the group that is doing their sensory deprivation as they are being led in meditation. And working on postures and breathing and stuff like that does matter. But that alone doesn't make it yoga. To complete the death role, the virgin leads the funeral. But the virgin must be completely prepared towards mothering, rather than it just being a quick act done only for the sake of reproduction. And relics of people and such are knowing where the bodies are, or whatever can be for those going through the spiritual alchemy, are them being aware of it for when the time is right. When you have a magical order, you should try to make it cohesive rather than something that's divided between a bunch of different conflicting principles and conflicting entities. The Gospel of Mary and the Christian allegory of Joseph and Asenath are influences with this all as well. The not only religious but mystical function of marriage is, of course, the origin of this progression through the top grades of the OTO and the 9th degree and all that. You don't have to do stuff perverted and, just get used to it and have power over it, and things that repulse you and switch that over. In a way, you get that power, but you don't have to engage in anything perverted or criminal, you could say. Templi is as the angel of the Saturnian, of the Draconian, of the precise, are accounted for details. Hanyal is as the door, from the infant or toddler to the ascended master of a mother, rather than as a stairway, as spheres of principles. Kamal is the angel that's a guardian present in destruction and war along the pathway to the Grail Castle. And the journey is one that encounters the mother that is there along the stages of development of the children. The magician in their visual and movement related techniques. The right-hand path and the left-hand path merging. The snake and the dove. The religious and the political society. Tzadkial is the mystical formulas and mystical shapes. Cosmology mixed with mystical, social, and pedagogical function. As much as using the word pagan and magic with the K seems a bit new agey, we can find out what soulmates and twin flames are beyond some wish fulfillment fetishistic fantasy. Be of a tradition that just doesn't refer to the physical structure of the universe, doesn't just refer to the human soul, doesn't just refer to the fire beings or demons or whatever you want to call them, and the light beings or the angels or whatever you want to call them, but something that's holistic and works a balance to really evoke the parts of yourself. And we mix the Hermetic and the Gnostic and, make them agreeable in a way that's workable for us. Merging the various types of priesthood and finding out what those priesthoods were in their origin. It's not about patriarchy or some misbegotten idea of matriarchy. It's about all types of people, all types of gender working together. Of course, I'm not saying that everybody is for the Church of Hermetic Sciences and Faripharia, or it's a path for everybody. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that this is the romantic idealism that I see behind this. And of course, just as we saw techniques earlier of a less narrative aspect, more of a straight up principle and stuff, working with one's centers and body of light is what this picture is all about.